Washers versus bearings, the age-old question in the pocket knife community. Well, it's at least 10 or 15 years old. So I want to start by looking at some good and not so good examples of knives on each of these platforms, starting with this CJRB pyrite. Now, this pyrite is on bearings and has a particularly weak detent that I was not able to easily tune out, and that led to it unintentionally opening in my pocket. Because there wasn't very much friction with those bearings and the weak detent, that it ended up being a safety hazard, which led to me not being really comfortable with carrying it. Moving over to a not so great example of a knife on washers is this old Kershaw, and there isn't a very strong detent on this knife either, so if we depress that flipper, it doesn't really want to come open. You got to give it a little bit extra wrist, which isn't so bad, but it's not the best example of a knife on washers. So moving down to some great examples of knives on washers and bearings. With the Spyderco smock, as soon as we overcome that detent, those low friction bearings allow it to fly all the way open with a very smooth open and close. You can slow roll these as well. And just a really great example of a higher quality knife on bearings. And as far as the washers, we're going to look at this MBK Old Guard. And this also, once you overcome that detent, it just flies right open and is buttery smooth. Excellent example of a knife on washers. Now, this isn't exactly drop shutting, but I don't really need a knife to drop shut. I like knowing that the blade stays right where I left it. Kind of the conclusion is that it doesn't really matter. The overall quality of the build of the knife is really what matters. There has been testing done with dirt and grit getting into the knives, and it hasn't really been proven that one is necessarily better than the other, so it does just come down to a matter of preference. So I want to know, what do you prefer? Do you prefer knives on washers or knives on bearings? To me, it varies. If I'm going to be in a very dirty environment, I still just feel like the knife on washers is going to be better. It's not going to be more likely to jam with the dirt, but I think it's going to be easier to clean. I know I'm not going to have to take it apart. I know I'm not going to have to worry about sand getting deep in those grooves or anything. I could probably just run it under some water. Not probably, I know that I can. I have my Salt Series Spyderco that I just run underwater after I take it to the beach, and it gets all the sand out of it just fine. But anyway, what do you prefer? Let me know.